Welcome to Find Your Daily Calm. I'm Sel, and I'm thrilled to have you with us for today's enlightening conversation. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that's becoming more crucial by the day: how to enhance our human connections through calm communication, especially in the age of AI, or artificial intelligence. Our guest today is someone who has spent nearly 4 decades at the forefront of mental health, challenging traditional practices and advocating for a more compassionate, human centered approach to well being. Dr. Fred Moss is not just a psychiatrist, he's a visionary who believes that true healing comes from understanding and embracing our authentic selves. With his pioneering methodologies like Creative 8 and True Voice, Dr. Moss has helped countless individuals find their voice and foster genuine human connections through creativity and self expression. In a world where artificial intelligence is rapidly changing how we interact, Dr. Moss's insights into calm communication couldn't be more relevant. Today, he'll share his unique perspective on maintaining and even enhancing our human connections in this AI driven world. So let's dive into this fascinating discussion with Dr. Fred Moss. Dear friends, welcome to another special episode of Find Your Daily Calm. Today, it's all about calm communication and enhancing human connections. And we're happy to have with us here today a great person who has great knowledge about this topic. We have Dr. Fred Moss. Dr. Fred, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's just a wonderful opportunity for me, and I really look forward to having a great conversation with you and for your listeners as well.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. Our first question, we're jumping right in. Your journey from a state mental health facility to pioneering a new approach in psychiatry is inspiring. How did your early experiences shape your philosophy on communication, particularly for our case, calm communication, and its role in authentic human connection, particularly in the context of today's AI-driven world?
Yeah, so that's a great question, a bit complex, and I think I can take it on. Thank you for the question. So, when you say my early experiences, I would say that I go back even before the time when I had my job at the state mental health facility for adolescent boys, which I had about 45 years ago was when I first started that job. But I grew up in a family. I had two brothers that were older than me, 10 and 14 years older than me. And they had some arguments with my parents on a regular basis. It was chaotic. It was a little bit of, conflict that I had to deal with, disarray in the family. And so when I arrived to that setting, and I was called on to bring joy and love to that family. At least that's what they tell me. And so I arrived with that as being my primary goal. And so inside of the conflict of two teenage boys and my parents, my job was to bring calm and love and peace into the family. And the way that I did it, as I recall, is I was funny and I was really smart and I was really cute. And these were things that brought pleasure to my brothers. They recently told me, we had a family reunion only about 2 weeks ago, that's who I was when they arrived. When I arrived. And I haven't been that way for, all of my life. That's for sure. I haven't kept up that role. So there's been times maybe where I wasn't so pleasant and didn't bring joy and peace and calm to the family. But that was my intention early on. And I got to see that a world works a whole lot better in a calm environment. I would get nervous. I would get afraid in the early years. So as time went on, I found myself, wanting to learn how to stay calm and having difficulty as well. I had a difficult 13th year for various reasons that we don't have to go in now. And I had some difficulties, with there was some conflicts in Detroit. That's where I grew up. And there was, conflicts in the United States. There was a war. There was a lot of things that we had to go through. And it was hard to stay calm. And the adults were no longer my role model for how to stay calm. I eventually left college because it didn't work for me. And I actually came back, tried again and left again. And then I got a job at the state mental health facility that you're speaking of. And I was about 21 years old. And these were kids, these were adolescent boys who had been placed in these facilities. And as you can guess, there was a whole lot of tension and conflict in those settings as well. The only way to calm people down in that setting is to be calm in myself.
True.
So what I attempted to do, what I again got to realize is that being calm is an attribute. It's a virtue. It's something worth pursuing. Again, I haven't been masterful at it my whole life. If you ask my family or my friends or my partners or even my kids, they would say I wasn't always masterful at staying calm. But as a clinician, it was very important to me to learn how to be calm, learn how to teach calmness, learn how to show people how to be calm. And, most of the time what people do in the world of calm is they go for the quick fix. They go for drugs, or they go for alcohol, or they go for watching TV, or, calm down. Let's just sit still. Let's just take it easy. That isn't always the best way to find an overarching calmness. What I have now found, and we're going to go a little bit further. I know that, you asked a simple question. Let's just go for this. Is in order to be calm, we have to find that from within, not from without. If we start dealing with all the tensions and all the troubles and all the traumas and all the drama and all the trials and tribulations of the world, and then we call them our own and, jump on those trains, like whether it be a virus or whether it be a war or whether it be an election or whether it be some divisive issue, which apparently we do still have divisive issues in the world. If we jump on those, we're not going to be calm. The only way to be calm is to find it within. And the finest way, or the easiest way to get there that I have found, the most likely and most direct way, happens to be through meditation. So when we speak of meditation, I'm talking about a lot of things. I'm talking about meditation. I'm talking about gratitude. I'm talking about being kind. I'm talking about being compassionate, peaceful, and about being forgiving. And maybe about creating a spiritual relationship as well, or helping others, really finding our own mindfulness. In the world of AI, this becomes another stressor for all of us. We have AI that's actually telling us how to do things, and in many cases, actually replacing our mind. Have you ever noticed now, like these days, you can go into ChatGPT or go in one of the large language models and actually ask it to become your mind. You could say, this is me, act like me, say what I would say, and it will do that.
That's true.
We're giving up our capacity to be human in that setting, because one thing that AI doesn't have is it doesn't have a heart. It doesn't have calmness per se. It doesn't have that fourth chakra. It doesn't have the capacity to actually deliver calm. So what I'm concerned about in the age of AI is that if we start replacing our helpers with machines, we are kind of sacrificing the capacity to be calm inside of our human connection. I think you touched on it in your question. What we really have here is the need. All 8 billion of us are looking for at least one thing collectively. And what I mean by that is each of us are looking for some form of a connection, because inside that human connection, that's where human healing comes from. That's where love comes from. And I would submit that that's where ultimately where calm comes from as well, where we can be, we can find and pursue equanimity, the ability to stay still, stay with ourselves in the face of troubling times. And that's what we're really looking at today.
That's true. Though it's really tempting at times when you have to do stuff, run errands and maybe finish a task, and AI is there to complete it for you. But I agree with you, Dr. Fred, when you say there's no connection there. It's me just accomplishing that task. And I'm interested in what you said, that most people, and I do agree with you, when people need to find calm, they usually look at it from without, from outside. And they would say, I gotta take alcohol or take this drug or something that will calm me down. But you've been a vocal critic of the overprescription of psychiatric medications in the traditional mental health industry. Now, how do you see AI impacting these trends? And what role can calm communication play in sort of counterbalancing the potential depersonalization of mental health care?
Wow, it's a really great question again. Thank you. So I just had this conversation with my wife earlier today. We
Mm,
were talking about what's really here is that if we use AI to direct our mental health interventions,
mm,
just like you said, like I'm going to ask AI, what should I, as a therapist or as a doctor, a clinician, or as a provider, what should I do when I'm faced with somebody like this person right in front of me, or this person who's coming to me for help? They'll AI will have no choice but to use evidence-based information from the past,
mm,
say, and using diagnostics that are essentially arbitrary but written on as truth inside of the large language models to
mm.
tell us how to be. Now, the thing about AI is AI has a tendency in the algorithm to speak to us like we want to be spoken to. Like it lets us know that we've done great. Like the first thing ChatGPT all the time says is, "Man, you're amazing." Like this, that was a great question. Like I think you're amazing, and then it delivers something that is sort of along the lines of what it is you would be looking for if someone thought you were always right.
Right.
So it takes advantage of that particular algorithm, so you don't even notice that you're missing out. So, what is, AI has a potential serious damaging effect on the future of mental health inside the world of creating calm because AI isn't calm. Because not that it's not calm, it's not like it's uncalm, it doesn't know calm.
Mm,
Calm is something that happens from within. Calm is something that happens, I would say, from the fourth chakra, from the heart centered human being. And AI does not and will not ever have that particular capacity. So when you start looking at, what about over medication? Well, AI is going to tell you which medications to use in various settings.
that's
And
true.
one thing AI won't tell you to do is avoid medicines at all costs. Now, for me, I get that medicines often induce, increase, perpetuate, or in some very real cases, actually cause the symptoms they're marketed to treat. AI won't tell us that. AI will not say that with the kind of authority that I just said it. AI is built for the masses. AI is built to believe that what's been fed to it, the idea that medicines are the right treatment for any kind of
Mm,
mental health concern, is the right way to go. And anything else is bunk. Anything else is alternative. Anything else is unproven, maybe even a conspiracy theory, for goodness sake. And AI won't be able to tell you that that's a good path to go. Now I can program my AI person to act, my AI, my AI relationship with my particular chat GPT
mm,
um, entity. I use her, she's got
yeah.
a female voice. She knows me. She knows what I'm about a little bit and might answer the right question in my way for me. Only, so, of course, so she can agree with me. And the idea here is that the impact. It's not like I'm a vocal stand against over medication of prescription drugs. I'm actually a virtual stand against prescription drugs being used first line for anything.
Yeah.
I don't have it that medicines are the best way to go in any human condition. Now, with that said, I have to leave a disclaimer, as I do with every podcast that I'm on, and that is for the people who are listening who already have their diagnosis, they have their treatment plan, they have their therapist or their provider, and they are on some medicines and they think it's the greatest. They wouldn't trade it for anything. It's the best they'd ever hope for. They wouldn't want to return it. They
Mm,
don't think there's anything wrong with it. They actually think it's the best thing that's ever happened to them. For those people, and there are a group of people like that, please continue doing exactly what you're doing. Because if you have gotten to that place anywhere in your life, you should continue doing what you're doing. Like if you get to the place that this is the best that life can get in this particular area, my goodness, congratulations, and please keep doing what you're doing. This conversation that you and I are having, however, is for the hundreds of millions of people who do not fall into that category.
yeah.
They feel underdiagnosed, overdiagnosed, misdiagnosed, undertreated, overtreated, mistreated. These are the people who deserve this conversation and should know that medicines are not the optimal first line treatment. And there are many other ways to find calm, find peace, find joy, find steadiness, find functionality, find balance without the use of a psychiatric diagnosis or psychiatric medication.
I concur, Dr. Fred. When you said that there are a set of people, probably the majority, because it was fed by AI through large a volume of information and data that they got, that they can stay in that treatment model based on traditional medicine or traditional treatments. But they're on the flip side, AI does not confirm, or AI would lead people looking for non-traditional options and say, always consult. You notice that. Always consult a professional health provider, which is actually driving you away from non-traditional approaches. And I'm amused with what you said, because it's true that when you go to AI and you use AI, it's actually supporting confirmation bias, because what you want to see is something that what our AIs would provide us. And there's no authenticity there if we were to use it for this, as you said, a new species. Now, your creative 8 and true voice methodologies, I've read about it. There you go. Emphasize creativity and authentic self-expression as therapeutic practices. How can these principles be integrated into our increasingly digital AI-influenced interactions to maintain, genuine human connections?
Yeah. So here's the thing. This is true whether or not AI is present. Ultimately, all 8 billion of us or so are interested in having a connection of sorts. And typically it's a human connection. Now, some of us decide to connect to God or to a higher power. Other of us might have pets or horses. But generally, what we're really looking for is some form of a connection. So the reason I've written both of the books, which you see over my shoulder here, is if we look at Creative 8, I identified 8 different ways to be actually in the act of creativity. So these are 8 methods to express ourselves, to self-express using creativity. And they include art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, and gardening. And what I've noticed is that the symptoms or the discomforts or the dysfunctions when you're doing those things just immediately dissolve and disappear. This is very interesting because while we're doing it, our capacity is improving at that very moment. And what's really happening is we're finding another channel to express ourselves and be heard. See, when we express ourselves and we're heard, we no longer feel the pain and discomfort of this concept of having a mental illness or having mental dysfunction. Because mental dysfunction is generally a function of our incapacity to communicate with another human one way or another. If you look at depression, if you look at anxiety, if you look at even the so-called psychotic symptoms, or you look at adjustment disorders or difficulties in public or difficulties with completing tasks or difficulties with people in general or with chores in general, it's typically a concern related to our inability to be heard effectively and our inability to listen effectively. What the Creative 8 offers is different channels over and above the ones that are using today inside of our voice and ears, like in the form of the performing and visual arts, for instance, that allows us to actually communicate using other means and other platforms, and thereby relieve ourselves of those concerns that we otherwise have in the binary language-based conversations that we're so used to. So we have a capacity when we use those alternative means to learn new ways to self-express and communicate. And what I suggest to the people in that book is that they do one of those things 3 times a day, and then just see what happens, because we activate those channels. If you dance 1 minute, 1 minute every day, if you sing 1 minute every day, if you do art 1 minute every day, and you can do it more than a minute, by the way, it's okay. But you open up that channel and you can see that the symptoms that you had going into that can actually instantly be relieved and do not have to return. So it's a way to actually get healing through creativity and self-expression. Now, the True Voice book, what that talks about is different than just vocality. The True Voice book, the Find Your True Voice book, where you can find it at findyourtruevoicebook.com, and I'll send a copy to your listeners should they go right there. Is the True Voice book doesn't look at how to speak; it actually looks at how to be. Like, how can you find that authenticity underneath all the mess? What is it that you're meaning to say that you don't say because you're afraid of being disregarded or dismissed or disowned or thrown off the island one way or another? People don't speak who they really are because they're afraid. So people say things they pretend to be someone that they're not in order to protect the person that they are. Now, this is just ludicrous, absurd, preposterous way to live life. But we do that. All of us can relate. And then we don't speak when we should. And, even worse, we sometimes speak and say things that even we don't believe. What has the world come to that we actually spit things out that even we don't believe? I think it was Thoreau who said that the mass of men go through life in quiet desperation and then go to their graves with their songs still in them. I find this to be beautiful and super tragic, perhaps the most tragic aspect of what it means to be alive.
Very
Can
poignant.
you imagine
Yeah.
getting through a whole life without anyone ever really knowing you? That's what some of us are at the risk of at this point in time.
The truth is, dear friends, that when we were reading the profile of Dr. Fred, he had us that expression and art. We wanted to always say that because we're for the expression of art, like dance and music and singing, as I myself dabble in all those things. And I agree. It takes out all the anxiety, if I were to label it that, or stress or depression or things that make you worry. But sadly, Dr. Fred, there are institutions, educational institutions all over the world that tend to trivialize these things now. Art programs, music programs have been taken out of the curriculums, which is sad.
Yeah. Not only that, the same conventional education system is over there. I assume that you're in the Philippines. Is that correct?
I am. Yes. Yes. Right.
In the Philippines and here in Western culture, these same conventional educational systems wash it out of us early in the years by telling us that our art wasn't good, or telling us that we didn't sing well, giving a big red X on the top of our paper when we did it as a kid, telling us that we're not artists or not singers or not dancers, or we're not good in the kitchen, or we're not good musicians, and that, and all the other things. And because of that, we start learning that maybe we're not good enough to express ourselves openly in those areas. And if we were able to actually, reinvigorate those things and reactivate them and see that wherever we are is actually fine enough. And each and every one of us, look, just to live one more second requires massive amounts of creativity. When you think about it, all the things that you have to do to live one more second, decide what to do, when to do it, where to do it, what to say, what to look like, who to be, all those things require massive amount of moving creativity. You're a creative. I already know that. And now you tell me you're an artist. That's beautiful. But it's even more than that. Every single person who's deciding to take one more breath on this planet is a creative. And each and every one of us has the capacity to communicate effectively using not only the 8 ways of art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, gardening, but multiple other ways of expressing ourselves. There's 2 more that I threw on: cooking and photography. Cleaning and photography. And then the ultimate trump card, which is being creative by helping anyone do anything. Actually being of service. When we go out there and lend ourselves, like give ourselves to the capacity of helping anyone do anything, all negative symptoms, all disempowering contexts naturally disappear and dissolve at that point. And we find ourselves with a purpose instantly, something that can't be found in any other way.
I love that, Dr. Fred. Creativity in the age of AI is like water. It finds its own level. Now we have applications, probably also AI driven, like YouTube and TikTok, allowing people to express. And formerly, they would have been told by their teachers, their bosses, their superiors, telling them that there's no time for art, there's no time for performance. But people find a way, and that's where we're helping them, I think.
Yeah, I think so. You bring up another good point, which is the interface of AI here is also both acceptable, and I find myself using it too. You look at some of the programs, Beautiful.ai or Gamma.ai, and or even Canva. You start looking at some of the artistic creating programs that are out there that you feed them a little bit of text, a little bit of code, and kaboom, they just create something. They just create something that you can feel comfortable somehow delivering to your next, person or next group of people as something that you created. When in fact, all you really did was create some code or some snippet of a video or some audio snippet, feed it into a system and allow the machine to go, whoo, and then deliver something, some slideshow or some video that's virtually based, that did not require any creativity other than perhaps to come up with a useful prompt.
That's true. Now, on that note, Dr. Fred, how can individuals and mental health professionals alike use calm communication to ensure that technology, the one that we use now, enhances rather than diminishes our ability to connect authentically?
Yeah, this is a great question as well. Thanks for asking. And I think what we have is just from the stance that is obtained through the leveling and the balancing that comes with a daily meditative practice and mindfulness as a general way of being, one can see that AI is not a threat. Nothing is a threat. In the world of equanimity, there is no threat.
Yeah.
And when we get that internal calmness that is really honestly here, I guess what I want to say to you and your audience is when we're not anxious, when we're not calm, it's a function of the stories that we're making up about the world going on around us. After all, we have a choice to deal with anything any way that we want to. But a bomb goes off there, or someone gets lost over there, or some money gets lost over there, or there's a conflict over there. Or if there's a worry or a concern, or you lose your job, or someone gets sick, or you get sick, or you lose something you had, or you don't get something you wish you had, all those things happen. We tend to throw our whole self onto that experience and become that experience. I had a client just this week explain it in really, really succinctly, just one sentence, which is, we make something into everything. We make something be everything. And it's really exactly what happens. And then we become that anxiety. In the world of mindfulness, what ends up happening is we have a capacity to see ourselves here and to experiencing life coming through us like a cloud formation, right? Experiencing life as it happens and not jumping on the train car or jumping on that hand grenade to become that which is happening outside. How can we use AI? The same way as what I'm saying here. If we use AI naturally as a tool rather than a replacement for our heart and soul, or even our mind or our creative sense, then we have a capacity to be calm in how we deal with AI. And given that AI is simply an algorithmic response to the humans that are delivering prompts into it, AI will respond effectively to calm prompts by being calm in return. And that's just what's here. Why does it do that? Because we already decided. That's how the darn thing is built. It's built to respond to the algorithm that we serve it. And that's what AI offers. And if we utilize it as a tool and we treat it as a tool that we created rather than a threat to replace who we are, now we have a whole different relationship with AI as we understand it.
I love that. In the world of equanimity, there are no threats.
Exactly.
That's a soundbite for me. Your call to action, Dr. Fred, in this question, as someone who has witnessed the evolution of mental health, mental health care over nearly 4 decades, what
More
advice?
than 4 decades.
4 decades. What
Yeah.
would you give to those concerned about the future of human relationships, friendships, maybe, in an AI dominated world? And how can we proactively foster environments where calm communication really thrives?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say about people who are concerned about the future of human relationships is that's extremely well founded. We should be. It's proper to be very concerned about the future of human relationships
Yeah.
in the world of AI and our future. You know, what are humans to humans, and what impact are those other people, the people who aren't us, the people with maybe, I don't know, evil intentions, or people with megalomanic intentions, or the people who are leaders of nefarious eight nations, or enemies of sorts. If they get their hands, as they get their hands on this remarkably powerful tool, it's very difficult to expect that everything is going to be fine all the way through. With that said, there's another thing, and I've just been contemplating this morning because I was in a very powerful meeting this morning, a very powerful 3 set of speakers, is that, is good going to win out over bad? That's what's I really want to know. We all want to know that. Like, bad is pretty bad. It's pretty scary. I mean, the evilness that's out there is really frightening. And is bad going to win, or is, as we have been taught perhaps in our religions, whether that's in the Quran or in the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the I Ching or wherever we come from, or the philosophers of the day or the philosophers of the past, going all the way back to to Shakespeare, going all the way back to the ancient Marcus Aurelius, or going back to Jesus or Buddha. Is there something to say about the fact that good has a power of its own and will be there in the end? It sure seems like the past dictates that somehow, though it's not clear how, good seems to show up on the back end of the war. Again, the Bhagavad Gita really spends so much time talking about good and bad. I mean, that's the conversation that goes on the whole book between Krishna and Arjuna. And we start really looking at, well, what's our choice? Our choices are to do bad in order to prevent badness to happen to us, like hurt them before they hurt you, or to simply be good and not do bad. Like, how we do have it. We know generally, I think most of us know what good is.
Yeah.
We can be good. We can be calm. We can be loving. We can be accepting. We can be compassionate. We can be forgiving. We can be kind. We can actually do that in the face of everything going on. And we can respect and even create a vision, create a future that includes good being the dominant influence. Look, I'm not a pie in the sky dude. That isn't how I go. This is not about like, it's all going to be okay. No worries. Don't worry about tomorrow. I'm not saying that. The path between here and what I'm describing isn't very clear. And there's probably going to be some chaos and some disarray and maybe even some nasty violence between humans as this goes on. I don't see how we're really going to avoid that. It's been going on anyways for millennium, and it's still going to. These are not the most wicked of all times. There has been times where war has dominated the world much more than it does now, really terrible wars. So is there likely to be chaos and functional conflict on the way to this ultimate outcome that may sound like a dream world? Yeah, probably, perhaps. But either way, I have a choice. I can be bad. I can be bad. I know how to be bad. I do. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to be bad. It just isn't. It's not that hard to be really a bad man. It's pretty simple. It's actually a little bit harder to be a good person, because it requires courage. It requires doing something with that fear that has us wanting to be vindictive, or has us wanting to be protective or preemptive in our actions, as if I hurt you before you hurt me is a good move. It turns out that all the things that humans do are likely to come crashing against each other here in the next few years, let's say, or decades. And ultimately, my hope and wish and dream, and I'm a spiritual person and I believe in God and I believe in the outcomes in this way, is that in the end, either good wins or we're exterminated. Those are the two choices. And so I'm going to choose good winning.
Fantastic message, friends. If you really listen to it intently, I hear Bob Marley playing along and then saying everything's going to be all right. It is really going to be all right, and it's your choice. Dr. Fred Moss, time is short and time flies when you're having fun and learning a lot. I hope we could have you again in the next or future episodes of Find Your Daily Calm. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure, and it would be my honor and privilege to be invited back, and I would be here instantaneously any day that you want me, and I really appreciate the conversation. Great questions, great conversation, great listening. You're a fantastic host, and thanks for having me on your show, and thanks for letting me share with your listeners.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. Friends, Dr. Fred Moss, a great force in the world that's going to be a great contribution to what he's going to teach us. Our choice, learn and become better persons. We have that choice to be good or bad, but good, there's a lot more effort there. So we have to learn calmly. Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey with Dr. Fred Moss. I hope today's conversation has given you a fresh perspective on the power of calm communication and the importance of staying true to our authentic selves, even as technology evolves around us. As we navigate this AI-driven world, it's more important than ever to remember that the heart of all healing and connection is our humanity. Dr. Moss's work reminds us that creativity, self-expression, and genuine human interaction are not just therapeutic, they are essential for our well-being. If you found today's episode inspiring, I encourage you to explore Dr. Moss's books, Creative 8, Healing Through Creativity and Self-Expression, and Find Your True Voice for more on how to cultivate these practices in your own life. And don't forget to check out his podcasts, Welcome to Humanity and Healthy Healer, where he continues to share his wisdom with the world. Thank you for tuning in to Find Your Daily Calm. Until next time, take a moment each day to connect with yourself and those around you. Stay calm, stay connected, and as always, be well.